What's up, you guys? Welcome back to the issaMonologues channel. I had to talk about this today because it was just heavy on my heart and heavy on my soul. So the topic of the day is the dark night of the soul. And if you're not familiar with this term, it is used to describe an emotional crisis that one goes through during basically a dark phase within a spiritual awakening. And there's actually really great article that I found that accurately depicts exactly what this is. If you're wondering if this is what you're going through or experiencing, I couldn't formulate words for what I was going through when I was in it. I just knew it was like something that I was in the middle of that was bigger than me, and I just felt completely lost. I didn't feel like myself. I felt like I lost my soul, right? And when I read this article, which was way later, it was actually after I've gotten out of this phase, I wish I would have found it much sooner throughout the process, because I was able to point to it and say, like, that is it. That's exactly what it was, because I really wasn't able to describe it very well. It just was like not coming out very well. So I will link that article in the description for you guys if you want to check it out. But essentially it's describing what you're feeling, what you're experiencing when you're going through the dark night of the soul. So the purpose of this phase within a spiritual awakening, where you feel completely lost and you feel like you don't feel like yourself anymore, you lose interest in like everything, and essentially this is to, I don't want to say break you down, but it's breaking you down to a point where you develop a much deeper sense of self, of emotion, and essentially what you need to heal is what's going to get you out of this state. So there's no like avoiding it. You have to kind of go through the BS or whatever. You have to go through the slump of it, but I don't want that to be discouraging, because I do now, after I'm out of it, have some practical ways in which you can kind of get the ball rolling. I don't really want to say speed the process up, because the first thing that I would say is surrender to what it is that you're going through. Understand that everything that you're feeling and that you're going through, when you come out on the other side of it, will make you a stronger individual and way more connected. So I don't want to say that this is going to speed the process up per se, but it really depends on you as an individual. Some people go through like a year worth of this and then they, see their way out of it. It was quite severe for me. My spiritual awakening started in 2016, just after I became sober. So 2 months into my sobriety, I just started having like emotional meltdowns, and I didn't know really what was going on with me. The only thing I could at the time really point to, on the surface anyways, was my sobriety. And so I really thought it was me having a hard time with the sobriety, and that's why I fell into a depression. But the depression lasted for years, guys. We're in 2021 right now, and this started in 2016. So as you could imagine, I had no idea what the dark night of the soul was at the time. I did feel that it was a spiritual awakening because of the unveiling that was happening early on, but I didn't even know what that entailed. Like, I didn't even do the research at the time really to see what all was a part of a spiritual awakening. I was just really finding myself in a slump that just progressed in a worse way over the years. At first it was just a literal emotional meltdown. Like, I didn't really know how to cope with anything because I was used to like heavily drinking and smoking, but since I was sober, I didn't really have those like therapeutic ways to cope with life, I guess you could say. And then on top of that, like, already being a sensitive person, I used those things before to repress regular stuff. And when I didn't have that anymore, I was highly, highly, highly emotional and sensitive, and I was just starting to see life in a different way, which was causing a lot of chaos in my head, because I was living in, like, I would say, like a bubble, and the veil was pulled off at that time. And since then, I thought that was like the only veil, right? Like, okay, this is what I needed to see. The veil just keeps on going back layers and layers like a big ass onion, and it's just like never ending the deeper you go into discovery, right? So yeah, so that was it for me. I would say 4 years of it was me just going into a deeper depression. I'm not saying that's going to be the case for you, so I don't want to discourage you into thinking that. That was just what it was for me, but also one of the things that I had to discover and work through in my healing was that I, in the past, tended to avoid a lot of things, sweep things under the rug, and not really confront things head on, which is why I really dwelled in this state for a long time. So I'm not here to diagnose anybody, but I would say that if you find that that is something that you do, don't wait to take action in doing these practical methods to get yourself out of this point, because the longer you do that, you're gonna be driving yourself crazy, like literally crazy. You'll be thinking you're going crazy. So yes, the first 4 years was pretty much me just like sinking in this depression and feeling like this is just what life feels like from now on, kind of thing. And then the last year, which was just about a year ago from now, maybe like a year and a half, something like that, I've been in this transition of getting out, right? It's like, imagine being in a little sewer, right? Like a sewage, whatever, underneath the ground, and there's no light in there at all, but you can hear the rats running past you, and you can feel like breathing on you. You can hear the water dripping, and you're just in there like scared and like, what the hell is going on? And then all of a sudden, after being down there in that dark place for so long, you see like a tiny little light, like right there, all the way down there. It's so tiny, but you start kind of running towards it because you want to get the hell out of there, right? Your logical mind tells you want to get the hell out of there. And then you start going towards it, but then you find that the light is gone. Like, it's just like it comes and it goes. That's how I felt, right? And then in the midst of it going away, you might have backtracked a little bit and don't even know, because you're just in this dark place. So that's exactly how I felt, if I could describe it to you, within the last year or so. And to be honest, I think the transition out of it was a little bit more psychologically draining for me than just being in the depression in the first place, because it took more effort to keep going back to find that light, to go towards that light. But here I am. I've made it to the light, climbing my ass out of that shit, and I'm in the middle of the road just looking like, okay, where are we going from here? Because at least we're out of that shit, right? And it took some time to get there for me, but had I known, in hindsight, we always look 20/20 vision, and we say, what I would have known, what I would have given to know what I know now, kind of thing. So I really just hope that this video resonates with somebody who's lost in this place right now, and is seeking ways to correct whatever it is going on and work your way out of it. So without further ado, here are the practical tips, methods that you can use to find your way out of this. First and foremost, surrender yourself to acknowledging that you are experiencing an emotional crisis, or you are experiencing the spiritual awakening in the first place. Because like I said, I knew that I was feeling a spiritual awakening of some sort, or it was definitely like a spiritual thing for me, but I didn't even really investigate that much to see what the phases are, or why I'm feeling how I'm feeling, or that kind of a thing. So kudos to you for finding this video, because you're obviously doing the work already. But once you see that, surrender yourself in acknowledging that this is where you are, and that it will be a process to get yourself out of this place, because you will make it out of this place and you will be stronger on the other side. But you have to do the work, and it takes time and effort, I would say, to get out of it. But the first thing is accepting it, because once again, one of the other things that I had to heal about myself in the deep work is that like I said about avoiding things, I didn't like to accept things that I deemed as unacceptable. And so sometimes that means something would be right in front of my face, and subconsciously I would know that, but it's almost like I was lying to myself in that I just wouldn't confront it, right? And so the first thing you need to do is surrender and accept that this will take time, and this will also take effort on your part, but you know, at your own pace, I should say, though. So don't feel like rushed or anything like that, but at your own pace, and it will take time. So surrender yourself to the process. And I guess this segues into tip number 2. Please don't go at it alone. This is a lonely journey because it's you looking at yourself in the mirror and having to dig deep. So it is something that no one else can do for you, but isolating yourself, which is what I did, I don't think that was helpful for me. To some degree, you will need a lot of space for yourself, and that's good. I do think it's a good thing to have time to yourself, for yourself, by yourself. I think that's very important. I do my deepest digging when I'm able to be by myself and really just think, you know what I mean, and really get deep by myself. But with that being said, if you're going through something, don't suffer in silence if you don't have to, because I think for me that probably prolonged the process when it really didn't have to. But it was something that I did that I see in hindsight like I probably shouldn't have, because now I do have people that were in my life prior to this, during this, that I come to and I talk to about these kinds of things, and it's really, really, really helped me in seeing my way out of this, and also now just like on beyond. And so I just wonder, if I was open with them about this in the first place, then I think that would probably have cut my time in like half, or like maybe less than that. I don't know, guys. You don't know. You can't go back in time and see, but I think that would have definitely helped me. So when doing this though, because you probably don't want to share with everybody something like this, it will choose wisely, basically. Be specific and intentional about who you share this with, because unfortunately, because it is an emotional crisis, you will be highly sensitive, you will second guess yourself, you will be in a very in my experience, in an insecure, vulnerable state. And so you don't want to share that with everyone, because some people, whether they're in our lives and we love them or not, will play on that and can actually manipulate, or use that as a weakness of yours and use that to control a situation or be manipulative. So you don't want to share this with everyone, first and foremost, for that reason. And another thing is, if people can do that, then they can probably also attempt to invalidate your feelings, in which, like I said, I couldn't even explain what was going on with me. I just knew that something deep was going on with me that was slowly but surely affecting not just myself, but the relationships around me, my work ethic. It had me extremely, extremely lethargic and lazy, and everything that I used to kind of judge other people for, if I'm being totally honest with you guys, and say things like, I don't understand how people don't want to get their own money, and like just things that I used to say where I realize now I was really judging people. I found myself in that same place in which I always deemed as like a low place, if I'm being honest with you guys. I know it sounds judgmental, but I'm being honest with you guys. Like, that's really what I used to say, what I used to think. And I think I might have spoke that up to the universe to put me in that place and humble me, because that's what I experienced, right? And it was debilitating. It was like I couldn't even find the motivation or the will to change what I was in, or to like just kind of like change my life. It was just like a downward spiral that I didn't think could become of me. And that's a very arrogant thing to say, but again, I'm being honest with you guys. It's the point of this whole thing, right? It's like, I'm being honest. That's where I was. That's what I was thinking. That's how I was acting. And that's what happened to me. So it was a very humble experience, and it's not over. But yeah, so be careful of who you're talking to about it, because no one should be messing with your head any more than you're already experiencing your head being fucked with. And definitely do not allow anybody to invalidate your feelings, because nobody feels what you feel. So no. And the third thing that I would say is, this is pretty much the crux of getting out of this phase of the spiritual awakening, which is the dark night of the soul. The crux of that is doing the work. That's what me and one of my girlfriends call it, doing the work, right? But this is the effort that you need to take to get your mind into a better place. I realize you have to really, really feed your subconscious mind to get out of that dark place, because otherwise your mind may want you to live there. Like, seriously, there's like, the angel and the devil. Like, the mind to me is like the devil on this side. It takes a hold and it runs everything. And then like the soul, or the heart even, right, is like the angel on this side, the light, right? And the light, it wants you to come back. It wants you to be soul fulfilling. But that mind, the devil on this side, will keep you down for as long as you allow it to. I should put that on a shirt. Seriously. Because that's really what was happening for me. It was just like really holding me back. And my true self, my inner self, like really wanted to break free and break out of it. It was like a spell or something. But my mind got the best of me time and time and time again. And I don't want you to experience that, because you will feel like you are really mentally having an episode, like going crazy. It feels like you're in a psychosis almost. So if you do feel that way, again, I'm not disclaimer, I am not a medical psychiatric professional or anything like that. Seek help where you see fit. And I mean professional help where you see fit, and be vocal to the people around you that you can trust and that you feel will be supportive, because I know how it feels. You can really feel like you're going nuts up here. So feed your subconscious mind. Just keep telling yourself, not even just what you're telling yourself, what you're feeding yourself. So what I started doing was, when I was doing the work, right? And the work is a term that's short for shadow work. And shadow work was developed by the philosopher from, I believe, the 18th century, by Carl Jung. He was a philosopher who developed this concept with shadow work, that everybody has a shadow. So this is like our inner selves that we have repressed and suppressed. So it may not come out as who we are to the world, as in our persona, our personality, but it is a repressed version of ourselves that lives inside of us. So have you ever heard somebody use the phrase, people's hatred is really based off of something that they hate about themselves, or things like that? It's because of the things that are deep down within us that we may despise, or something like that. We don't show these things about ourselves, but there are traumas that everyone has experienced, and things that we kind of harbor inside of us, we've shunned away. It could be like sexuality, it could be your expression. I've had a problem with that for a while. It could be a number of things that you've just repressed in your earlier life, mainly childhood, and you've never really, oh my god, my arm is shaking so bad. But yeah, things that you haven't really overcome or healed. And again, that is why we experience the dark night of the soul, because we need to heal these things and get past these things in order to evolve, to grow into the better, more spiritual version of ourselves that we're here to be, right? So shadow work exercises, you can find a bunch of them on YouTube or Google, of course. But these are things just to like kind of sum it up for you. You can journal. Some people like to write. Writing is really good. It really helps you think in a different way when you write, because you have to think before you write things down. It's not just like talking where you just ramble sometimes and you're like, how did I get there? That's me. But really, like when you're writing, it's like I'm very intentional when I write. So I have a bunch of different thoughts before I write one line down, because it's like, I don't know, something about it is like set in stone. Like if you write this down, it is what it is. So it really makes you think. And so there are questions that you can find. Like I'll find one and I'll put it in the description below if you want to try these kinds of exercises. But you can journal and it'll just ask you questions that I don't want to call them basic questions, but something about your childhood may seem like a basic question to you, but when you really dig deep into it, you find a lot of things that you never really thought twice about, or you don't realize is the reason why you have certain behavior and things of that nature. So it's really good to get into those exercises, because you start to like self-actualize and come to realizations that you may not have realized about yourself. So you get to know yourself better, and it's the good, the bad, and the ugly, which is hard for some people to look in the mirror and say, I do have a problem with this. Or sometimes you can do it by yourself, but you can't do it with others because of the ego and things like that. But as long as you're doing it with yourself and working on those things, that's what matters, and that's what gets you out of this, right? So it's a combination. For me, it was a combination of doing the shadow work with self, and because I was having a really hard time with staying motivated and even like continuing to go on this self-exploration, because I was feeling really debilitated throughout this process. Another thing was I would just keep like an earphone in my head or my ear, and I would just play a bunch of content from YouTube. That's what helps for me. Some people, if you want to read a book, if that's like your thing, then find some really good books to read. You can learn that way, obviously. Me, I'm a YouTube binge watcher, so I just would have a bunch of videos going in my ear throughout the day. Even like frequency binaural, I think that's how you pronounce it, binaural beats. But I just had stuff in my ear like all day long. And sometimes even when you're not paying attention like all the way because you're washing the dishes or you're doing something, all of that stuff still seeps into your subconscious memory. And sometimes you just hear that one thing that you needed to hear from that video, and it just does something to you. So I would say constantly feed your subconscious what it needs to hear. And for me, it's been a combination of spirituality, psychology, behaviors of people, of myself, right? And so just all of these things, just constantly inform yourself about different things, because there's something to learn from everything. But just constantly do that, and you'll find that you start to like it. I mean, first you might be a little like, I'm not even really into this, but just kind of force yourself to do that. And I know it can be hard to force yourself to do anything when you don't feel motivated, but that's what turned the key for me. And I was going through years of having no motivation at all. I just couldn't stay focused on anything I was doing. I would get the urge to be great, and then after like a week or something, I was just back in this freaking slump. So I don't want that to be the case for you, for anybody, and that's why I am sharing this with you. So do the work. I know it's much easier said than done, but take it from somebody who prolonged this process because of these things that I didn't do. I didn't surrender. I didn't do the research when the internet is at our fingertips, right? And we're blessed to have that. And I also, like I said, isolated myself when I come to realize that I really didn't have to do that. And that really did not help me at all, because my soul was yearning for connection. I love to connect with people. And this actually ended up being something that connected me and, like I said, two people in my life even closer on a more spiritual level, because we're able to relate in this way. And it's just been something that I really wish in hindsight those things would have gotten me onto a better place much sooner. But of course, everything runs its course the way that it's supposed to, in my belief. And I just hope that this video came at the right time for you or somebody that you know. So if you found value in what I delivered to you all today, please make sure you give this video a thumbs up. And if you haven't already, please do subscribe to my channel. That was a long, what was that, 20 something minutes. All right, you guys, my daughter's literally been sleeping in the back this whole entire time. That's why I filmed this in here, and she didn't even wake up. So thank you guys for watching this video, and I'll see you in the next one.